completely unjustified. All this destruction over what? Over fucking nothing. Over nothing. Literally nothing. Just a little bit of noise.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. But who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode, or not so fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer, where we tackle real issues. You learn what the elements of certain crimes are and defenses, and we break down cases. And I am coming to you with my pearl handle pistol cufflinks, so graciously gifted to me by our content genius, Michael Rivers. And today we're reacting to this Brooklyn shooting that happened in an apartment building. We'll talk a little bit more about all the intricacies that in gun violence in general and just some other kind of great topics that are relevant to this case. But before we get to that, this is brought to you by eSign.com. eSign.com, a very effective way to remotely do business. You know, I've had people contact me on the channel, say they've used eSign. If you use eSign, just download the app. You get 3 free signatures a month, and you can use it for just about anything. For example, my grandma, she's actually doing a geriatric rap circuit. It's a new thing. It's coming up, and she just signed a record deal, but she's got a warrant because, she's not that clean, but she's from the streets, and so she signed a record deal, and from the comfort of her own Cheeto-stained underwear basement. So when you need a deal done fast, you go to eSign.com. eSign.com. I use it all the time. It's an effective way to remotely do business. Because if it's not eSign, no one signs. Now, let's get on to this. Now, when you have a dispute with somebody, you can't bring a gun to a fist fight, generally speaking. Guns... First of all, we have too many guns in this country, honestly. We have too many people. Let me put it this way. We have too many people using guns in an inappropriate way, in a violent way. Solving problems with guns almost never works. In that Maine shooting, the cops were there within minutes, and within like a minute and 18 seconds, that guy was able to fire off how many rounds, and he was able to kill 18 people in like a very short period of time. Apparently, in this particular case, dispute. And we're going to have to pixelate some of this because otherwise we're going to get, it'll be a strike. I don't know how they do that kind of stuff. The content genius knows all. I mean, apparently this is a dispute about noise. Fucking noise. I'd put up with a little bit of noise so that I don't get shot. Or I'd put up a little bit of noise to avoid a conflict. But let's watch this, and then there's a press conference, and we'll talk about all this destruction. All this destruction over what? Over fucking nothing. Over nothing. Literally nothing. Just a little bit of noise. I'm gonna play it all the way through first, and then I'll play it a second time, and then we'll break it down. Now, I don't know what time of day this is, but he didn't have a shirt on. And somebody's upset with somebody over something. And there's no audio to this, unfortunately. So, I think that's a father and son there. You see him kind of hold a scissors to him. That's how fast somebody can die at the hands of a gun. So let's break this down a little bit more. So he's got no shirt on, no socks on, just a pair of shorts. Probably either late night or early morning. Now that's not a little guy. Yep, you see him adjusting the gun in his waistband. So the wife comes out. Just a nice lady, whatever. Son comes out. At this point, there's no violence going on. Just words between two parties. Now, we don't know what is said in terms of like whether he says, "I've got a gun" or anything like that. But here comes Dad with a pair of scissors. Now, right there, Dad's holding a pair of scissors up to the guy's face. Now, scissors can be considered a dangerous weapon because if you could stab somebody and cut him and kill him. So at this point, would he be justified in pulling out his firearm? Probably. But you do have a duty to retreat. You just do. In some states you don't. But even if you don't retreat, you still have a duty to be reasonable under the circumstances. You can see that he's holding the scissors in kind of a threatening manner, and he's not a little guy. The wife's trying to pull him away. Now, listen to your wife. Now he's going for his gun. So there's a break in the action. Wife pulls him away, and there's a break. So he's not really being threatened at this point with the weapon like he had been earlier. Where now he pulls out the weapon, the firearm, and his back is to him. And he's starting to walk back to his apartment. That's a problem. That's a real problem for the shooter. So he shoots him. And then he shoots the son several times. Several times. Son's posing no threat to him whatsoever. Certainly not a lethal threat. Then he goes over. And you can see he shoots one last time into the father. And then he calmly goes back to his apartment or wherever he's going. That last shot, in all likelihood he wasn't dead yet. That would be premeditated murder because there's only one reason to do that. And all the number of shots that he put into the son, completely unjustified. This whole thing is unjustified. And this is what kills me. Pardon the pun, but this is what kills me about solving problems. This whole concealed carry thing. I think gives guys their balls are just too fucking big at that point. Because now I'm tough guy. Now I can take on anybody. Where's the check? Where is the check? When we had the George Floyd riots here, I had my firearm out. And we had people going up and down our street and lighting garbage cans on fire. And all of a sudden, I see some guy come out of my neighbor's yard. And it was a neighbor from across the street. Some kids had stolen some stuff. And I pulled my gun on him. And I was shocked at how easy that was. And he was not somebody that I had any problem with. That I didn't. And, oh, it's you. Okay, sorry about that. And it was total mistake. When you get amped up, when you get really amped up, the firearm is not the answer. Walking away is always to live another day, to fight another day, to do something else. So let's see what happened to Mr. Shooter Guy.
Chief Patrol John Shell. Approximately 7:10 this morning on Bay 44th Street between Highway Avenue and Bath Avenue, Bath Beach section of Brooklyn. Uniformed police officers from the 6-0 precinct traveling down Bay 44th Street, utilizing the technology of the license plate reader. At this time, the license plate reader captured a plate on a black car, indicating that the car, and we now know the occupant of our car, were wanted for a double horrific homicide in the 6-7 precinct on Sunday, October 29th. The officers rounded the block.
So when a cop comes up behind you, they've got these license plate readers that just boop, and all of a sudden it goes right, does an NCIC check, and it can run a check on you, in like seconds. It's pretty good technology. And this guy was obviously on the street. They knew who he was, and wanted for a double homicide.
To verify the plate, it came up on the car that was parked. As they exited their police car, he walked up to the car. The male jumped out of the car with a knife in his hand and took off running. The officers pursued this male down to Bay 44th and Harway, were able to isolate and contain this male with the knife still in his hand. The officers called for backup. Members of the 6-0 Police Patrol came. They were able to isolate and contain the subject on the corner. For approximately 15 minutes, they had a dialogue, doing everything they could to have the male drop the knife. At the end of this, the male, for some unknown reason, in a full sprint, charged the officers.
The amount of time it takes to close the gap, for lack of a better word, and use a knife is staggeringly low. It's just like within a couple seconds. You can get like 21 feet within a couple seconds. Cops are not going to fuck around with that. Bye. You know, they're gonna put bullets right in through you, and they're gonna shoot for center mass. What does that mean? That means right here. Over what? What was this over?
Our officers were forced to defend themselves, to stop the threat, and discharge their firearm, striking the subject 4 times, 3 times in the chest, 1 time in the right leg. He was removed to a local hospital. He succumbed to his injuries shortly thereafter.
So 3 people dead. 3 people dead and 1 grieving mother/wife. For what? For a noise complaint? And maybe it had been a long-standing battle between them. So the fuck what? If it's that bad, move. You know, I mean, think about all the things you could be doing on that day. I could be getting laid. I could be having a glass of scotch. I could be going for a nice walk around the park. No, I think I'd rather shoot somebody and then go on the run and then get shot myself. You know, and I'm really talking right now to a lot of young guys, because a lot of the young guys, you know, they see the rappers, they see the, you know, the gun violence, and I'm all for firearms in terms of home protection, hunting, you know, that kind of. I think we have a, you know, Second Amendment right, and our Supreme Court has gone kind of the other way in terms of regulation. You know, that less regulation is better, and it is what it is. And I'm not even talking Second Amendment. I'm just talking practicality. You know, you carry a gun, you want to use it. You carry a gun, you think you're a tough guy. You carry a gun, you know, it's a big problem. I mean, look at what's going on in a lot of our big cities. So let's analyze what this guy did in terms of self-defense. Any use of force has to be proportional. It has to be justified. So he has to have a reasonable fear of death or great bodily harm. And with the introduction of those scissors, that kind of is there. But once there's a break in the action, you know, he has a duty to retreat. In New York, you have a duty to retreat. You just do. If you don't avail yourself of that, but where it's reasonable. And so, could he have just turned around and walked away? Nobody was preventing him from doing that. Was the father justified in putting some scissors up to the guy's face? Probably not, because at that point there was no introduction of any weapons. We don't know exactly what they were saying amongst themselves. I'll shoot you. I'll shoot. I mean, he could have been saying that. And if he was saying that, does the dad have a duty to retreat? Not really. There's a thing called the castle doctrine. You don't have a duty to retreat in your own home, but they're not really in their own home. They're in a common area in the hallway. And the duty to retreat is only a duty as long as it's reasonable to do so. If somebody's holding a gun at you, would you turn around and just run away? Is that what a cop would do? I mean, would you put your back to somebody who's got a gun to you? You wouldn't. I mean, and so would you be justified in an immediate reaction? Absolutely. I've won cases on that grounds, and I'd say to the jury, I said, now, would it be reasonable for him to turn around at this point while this guy has a gun in his back? What do you think a cop would do at that moment? Whatever a police officer would do, that's the same thing that my client should do, because the law of self-defense applies the same to a police officer as it does to an individual, and it does. You know, if the cop does something that's unreasonable, if it's excessive force, it's not allowed. So in this scenario here, that guy was not justified, in my opinion, in pulling the gun. Not only that, when he fires, the father was walking away. The wife was pulling him away, and there was a distance between them. Totally unjustified. Then the son, I don't know what the son was thinking or what he was doing, but he wasn't really posing a threat of great bodily harm to the shooter. And he pop, empties that fucking gun right into him. And that's ridiculous. You know, and then he goes and gives a finishing shot to the father. That certainly wasn't justified. That's murder one. So there's absolutely, and he probably knew the jig was up, and he probably wanted it to die, and that's why he did what he did with the cops. Were the cops justified? 100% yes. Somebody's running at you with a knife, you are absolutely justified in taking them out. You just are. That's what the law is. It all comes down to proportionality and reasonableness of your actions. You know, what would a reasonable person do under some similar circumstances? I had a case one time where my client went to go collect $1,000 from another guy, drug money, and my client had a gun on him, and so did the other guy. And the other guy pulls his gun, and because he thought my client was disrespecting him, and my guy shot at him 8 times. I don't think he hit him 8 times, but he shot at him 8 times, and he died right there on the scene. And the jury came back and acquitted my client in about a half an hour because think about the gun with gun, like force. Now, had the guy just had a rubber band and my guy had a gun, he wouldn't have won because it's not lethal force. I implore you all to take these concepts into your head because, you know, they teach some of this stuff in, you know, gun safety classes. Oh, and here's the other thing. With self-defense, once you're able to get the instruction on self-defense on a homicide case, it's up to the prosecutor to prove that you did not act in self-defense. They've got to disprove the elements of self-defense, or one element at least. But, you know, they do teach this stuff in gun safety class, and I think it's so rudimentary, and it gives people a false sense of security. Would you rather be judged by 12 or carried by 6? You know, I hate to see this. What a loss. What a loss. A young man and his father, and another young, he was not so young, I guess, but, and the other guy died. You know, you take rats, and you put rats into a small confined area, they get agitated. You know, and that's what I think kind of New York is kind of turning out to be. It's a lot of people in a small area. And, you know, you've got your little space and you kind of infringe on my fucking rights, you know, fuck you, turn your fucking stereo down. Why do you have to get so harsh? Why don't you just bring them an apple pie and say, hey, would you mind turn it down? I'll give you this apple pie if you turn your stereo down. I mean, what would be wrong with that? I suppose pumpkin pie because we're getting close to Thanksgiving, but I mean, what would be wrong with that? What would be wrong with giving them a flower instead of a bullet? And I'm sounding Pollyannish, I guess, a little bit, but I don't want to see anybody die. I don't like to see young people make bad decisions with firearms. And this guy made a bad decision with a firearm. He altered a lot of lives that day. He altered the cops' lives that had to shoot him. He altered the wife and the mother that was involved here. He ended the life of 2 men. Senseless over a fucking noise complaint. You know, I'm going to give you guys some homework. All right, I'm going to give you some homework. I want you, for the next couple days, you see somebody that maybe you like, maybe you don't like, try to make them smile. And see how that makes you feel when you try to make somebody smile. This doesn't make you smile. I'm really passionate about this. I really want everybody to really think hard about how you treat each other. You know, we're in a very divisive culture these days, but there's so many good people out there. So many good people out there. And I think that's you and me, and let's make everybody else solid and happy. Make somebody smile. Fuck, that pays dividends tenfold. All right, enough preaching for today. So make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and sign up for Patreon. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you bout to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you bout to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away.
23-hour lockdown, police is at my god.